Welcome to Building the Future, hosted by Kevin Horick. With millions of listeners a month, Building the Future has quickly become one of the fastest rising programs, with a focus on interviewing startups, entrepreneurs, investors, CEOs, and more. The radio and TV show airs in 15 markets across the globe, including Silicon Valley. For full showtimes, past episodes, or to sponsor the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com.
Welcome back to the show. Today we have Marc Garson. He's the founder and chairman at Remcoda. Marc, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. I think what you're doing is really innovative and cool, but maybe before we dive into all the brands and stuff that you're building, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with where you grew up.
I grew up originally in Queens, New York.
Okay, very cool. So walk us through, you went to university, what did you take and why?
Well, I kind of had a unusual background. My dad died when I was young, so I went
Oh,
to
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. I went to 8 schools in 7 years.
Oh,
I lived
wow.
on my own at 16.
Wow.
Uh, I won't brag about my education. It was pretty much dependent on where they let me play basketball in college. So I could say that my education was much more developed on my own in the business world from the street.
Yeah. Actually, I think there's been a lot of successful people that have done it kind of that way, right? And I think just the nice thing sometimes about that is like once you go in with like a fresh set, you're kind of like, well, that makes no sense. But if you've been to school for some of that stuff, you're kind of like, well, I can't do it like that because I was told that, right? So like it's an interesting perspective, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, certainly there's a lot of people that have had success that haven't had the best education, but I am a big believer in education. My 3 sons, who are in business with me, went to Michigan,
Oh, cool.
Cornell, and the University of Pennsylvania. So I worked hard to give them what I didn't have.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So walk us through your career up until what you're doing today, and then let's dive into all the things you're building.
Sure. So I have had a career that's completely different than what I'm doing today. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Oh, that's
I don't
great.
know if I'm sorry to say or it's just the way it is. But I started in apparel. Actually,
Okay,
I was living in New York City and I was a model, believe it or not.
that's
And
cool.
yeah, and I had a million jobs. I sold souvenirs in Yankee Stadium. I had an ice cream truck. I stocked shelves in a supermarket when I was in school. I can go on and on and on. The first real job that I had, when I say real job, not a job that meant just to survive for that day, was in the apparel industry. It was pretty
Okay.
much by accident. I didn't grow up thinking about, oh, I love this color or this fabric is so soft. It just happened by accident. I don't know, maybe any business I would have gotten into, I would have gotten the hang of it and hopefully have been successful. But by coincidence, it just was the apparel industry. And I started by doing my own brands. And then I got this idea about bringing brands in from Europe. And I managed to get the most popular brand in the world 30 years ago. I guess it would be the equivalent of today a Lululemon or a few years ago a Juicy Couture. It was
Sure.
called NAF, NAF, NAF. And any of the people that are, let's say, 50 and over, I think would really know that brand because it was truly one of the most famous contemporary brand in the world at the time. So I brought in many lines from Europe: Naf, Charles Chevignon, Chippy, many Kukai, many lines that were very famous in Europe. I did quite well with it, and then I decided that I had enough of that. I did have success. I had a bunch of retail stores. I had 7 retail stores also in the New York area, and by an interesting thing of fate, it was the time when this is even before the euro. There was the French franc, and it was not doing well. The dollar wasn't doing well against the French franc, and nobody was importing goods at that time. And I did it and had a lot of success. And the president of France's wife, Danielle Mitterrand, actually stopped traffic for 7 blocks on Columbus Avenue, where I had a store, and gave me a party and a commendation and all kinds of stuff. So it was fun. I had success, but I decided I wanted to do my own brands, either own them or license them. And I
Okay.
spent the next probably 20, 25 years um, owning a piece of or licensing many famous brands from BCBG, XOXO, Seven Jeans, Harley Davidson, Lucky Brand, Skechers, Fubu, uh, Echo, Rockaware. I can go on and on. I did private label for Barney's, Saks, Neiman Marcus, and some of the big mass market players as well. So I was doing quite well for many, many years in apparel. And I would say at one time I probably either owned or licensed at the same time 8 to 10 brands. And then the pandemic came, and the
Sure.
pandemic changed everything for me.
Okay. So what did you shift to, and how did you decide what to do?
First, I have to commend myself for doing 25 years in less than 5 minutes. My
Okay.
my
Sure.
family would be very impressed that I was able to do that.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, so what happened was when the pandemic came, all my apparel companies were basically closed down because the
Sure.
stores weren't open. So an interesting situation happened in that I was one of the first Westerners to come into China when it opened up. And so over the years, I don't know how else to term this, but I built kind of like an army.
Okay.
So I had a lot of people working for me on the ground, from manufacturers to customs people to freight forward people to finance people to government. I was completely connected. So what happened was everybody was in a panic over the pandemic, especially about catching the virus.
Sure.
So the thing that happened immediately is everybody wanted masks,
Right.
and at the very beginning, it was really hard to get anything into the country, and
Right.
we managed to get masks in before anybody. By coincidence, we got it in through food service. The big
Oh,
food
interesting.
service companies, the biggest public companies, were Cisco, U.S.
Sure. Yeah.
Foods, Gordon, and Performance Food Group. So all of them gave me orders eventually, but it started with masks that we brought in for Cisco. And after we successfully did that, the hardest thing to get in by a mile was the nitrile gloves. So,
Okay. Interesting.
to make the longest story short, which is what I'm trying to do because I don't want to bore your listeners, but uh, we ended up being the largest importers of nitrile gloves in the United States during that first year of the pandemic.
Okay.
And so all of a sudden now, we did maybe 5 times the amount of business that I had done in apparel in a 1 year time, never being in this food service business. Now, when I say food service, everybody should understand that there's two parts of food service. There's actual food, and then there's the things that you use with the food. What does
Sure.
that mean? Cups, takeout trays, plastic forks, knives, spoons, uh, garbage bags, hair nets, a million different products that you can't believe. Just think of anything that you have in your house that you can just throw out that has something to do with food.
Yeah.
And
Makes sense.
yeah, when you think about it, if you walk down the street or walk into a a mall or even an apartment complex, every single person is a non-food food customer. Everybody.
Yeah.
You
Okay. Interesting.
everyone in their house has something. Think about Burger King, McDonald's, Delta Airlines, everybody uses.
Yeah.
Everybody, but everybody uses. So the revenue in food service, and I don't know if I'm exaggerating, might be 100 times the size of apparel. So,
Yeah, I guess that probably makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, when I thought about it, in that first year, we looked at our customer base that we sold all these gloves and masks to, because that's all we started with.
Right.
And we were doing 40 companies that had revenue of over $1 billion a year. Not
Wow.
necessarily to us, but their
Sure.
company's revenue.
Yeah.
And when you go to apparel, when I was selling, I have to hope that Bloomingdale's doesn't charge back, that Macy's stays a business, that Neiman's doesn't go bankrupt again, that
Right.
Saks has
Interesting.
credit. There's not many people. It's not like that. There's a maybe 20 really strong people in apparel in the whole country over all the different sectors. And in food service, to give you an idea, my two biggest competitors and what I do 12 billion and $14 billion a year. It is
Wow.
a giant, giant business with giant revenues. So we looked at our business after this first year when things were starting to get better, and we realized two things. One is the reason that we were able to get everybody masks when they couldn't get them, nitrile gloves when they couldn't get them, was because I've spent 40 years being a supply chain expert. I
Right.
I
Interesting.
started doing domestic product in the United States, and then I went to France. Then after France, I went to Korea. After Korea, I went to China and Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, and I realized that this was a skill that I
Sure. See. Yeah.
actually had obtained over time, that I was able to find the right product, find the right factories, get the proper quality, get the financing, the shipping, the customs. It was just something that I had built over time.
Sure.
And rather than go back to apparel, which had a limited growth possibility, especially in these present times after the pandemic. I looked at food service and realized that food service is on fire, and that it was such a big market. And we went to the people that we saved during the pandemic, and we said, "What's next? What would you suggest we do? We saved so many people. We would like to stay in this business."
Yeah.
And I was told disposables.
Okay.
And I said, "That's great. What's disposables?" And it was pretty much like what I told you. You go to Burger King, you go to
Right.
Cheesecake Factory, and I mentioned all people we sell. We make the cups for Delta on the plane. We make the cutlery for American Airlines. We do Disney. We do SeaWorld. We do so Cheesecake Factory, Burger King, Popeyes, Firehouse, Dunkin' Donuts. I could just keep going on and on and on and on. So, so anyway, it just made sense to us to try to go after that business, and so we wanted to make a difference. So in the pandemic, we help people by bringing in protective items. So right now, what we're trying to do is come up with innovation that makes life easier for everyone. Come up with sustainable type products. We have a plastic-free cup that we're doing with the airlines that we started with Delta. That's really turning everybody upside down, because it's really important to protect the environment as well as producing product and making money.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. So you've worked with a ton of these big brands and companies. How did you actually go about landing some of those? Because landing one of them is hard enough, never mind many of them across different industries.
Well, are you talking about the present environment and what I'm doing now?
Well, a bit of both, really, because if you've worked with some huge apparel brands, like they had to have trusted you to partner with them, and then kind of some of the newer stuff you're doing. Like I think, and maybe it's similar and different. Like how has
You're
it
right.
been similar and different between the different industries?
Well, it's interesting. The only thing about the the business in the past of apparel that goes forward is we also have a health and wellness line. It's called Blue
Okay.
Zen, and we sell it to retail customers all over, and we continued with that. So that has still a customer base that's pretty much similar. But
Okay.
your 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 question is a good question. So it takes a long time to open up a major, and it takes a long time to get confidence. One thing I could think of is that we used to do a pretty big business with Burlington Coat Factory
Okay.
in
Sure.
clothing. They would buy all our off-price goods, but they're large users. Same thing with TJ Maxx and Marshalls, and these are relationships that I've had forever, and they trusted me. I opened them up 30 years ago. So just by coincidence, to give you an idea, when you do good work for people for so many years, so the chairman and CEO of Burlington is now the chairman and CEO of Kohl's. And the minute he
Yes.
got that job, he came to us and
Right.
gave us an opportunity to do business with him in Kohl's, and we got it. So sometimes over time, you develop trust and relationships, and they continue.
Right.
But a good example, what I think you're really getting to with the question, these big food service companies that I have are very hard to get into because my
Yeah.
competition are multi-billion-dollar companies that have
Sure.
been doing business with them not even for a decade, for many, many decades.
Yep.
So for Delta Airlines, we had to come up with something that was innovative.
Sure.
And so we got them this relatively plastic-free cup, and we spent 2 years trying to open up the account. Tons of
Okay.
samples, molds. I went with them and my team to China, on and on and on. We just opened up for gloves, Sam's. We're doing Walmart for in our health and wellness program. Each one of these probably took, on the average, 2 years. It's
Sure.
not
Okay.
easy.
But so how did you get your initial contact at, say, Delta, right? To start pitching them this cup?
So, sustainability is so important now,
Okay.
especially after this pandemic.
Yeah.
So, we went and the technical term would be Flustics approved plastic free. Uh, and so, we came up with this idea, and they loved the idea, but it was so complicated. They want to see how it nests in the plane, meaning that when you get your drinks on a plane, you see that when they come around with the cart, they have like 50 cups all on top of each other on the
Yeah. Yeah.
cart. So
Yeah.
they want to make sure when you pull it off, just one comes off and it comes off comfortably and easy. And you wouldn't believe all the crazy things
Yeah. I can
that you have
imagine.
to
Yeah.
do. And then there's different laws over the world, and Delta is a worldwide airline.
Right.
So there were so many things that we had to do and we had to figure out, and eh, by coming to them with something that was different, that was had sustainability, it was interesting to them. I'll tell you another thing that we did that opened it up for us. So the answer to your question is, if you're a little pimple like us, that's less, we're 150 to 200 million dollar company, which in my industry is a pimple.
Right.
In apparel, we'd be a big guy,
Right.
not in this industry. So we went to Home Depot, and we just thought of this idea, which kind of relates a little bit to the nesting in Delta. Home Depot buys a tremendous amount of gloves, all kinds of gloves, nitrile gloves, vinyl gloves, latex gloves. And we patented an idea about, you know what baby wipes are, where you
Yeah.
pull
Yeah.
it out.
Yep.
We
Yep.
did gloves like baby wipes.
Okay.
Gloves come
Interesting.
out of a baby wipe package, and it's really easy for them. So a lot of things we're doing, we're trying to be innovative because you can't just win on price. And if you want to fight these giants, it's not so easy. You have to be
Sure.
smart. Like think about uh, when I started in my career, people absolutely hated Walmart. Why did they hate Walmart? because nobody could compete with them. I'd go around the country trying to do products and visit retailers, and I'd see empty stores all over the country. Why were they empty? Because the local hardware store, the local pharmacy, they were all put out of business by the Walmart superstore. Now you see Jeff Bezos comes in and he had to come out with a million interesting and different ideas to be
Yeah.
able to fight Walmart. And now Walmart and Apple are like mortal enemies. But I give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely changed. Like Amazon's changed kind of everything, right? For
Yeah.
like across the whole industry. So I'm curious though. So you're doing all this stuff, but like, how do you come up with some of those innovative products? Because like the glove thing you just mentioned, like, did you come up with that idea to put them in like a baby wipes thing? Did you find somebody was doing that and you brought it to like Home Depot and these
That's
other
a
companies?
really that's a very smart thought process. Yes, so it's kind of exactly what happened. We've seen versions of it, and
Okay.
we came up with our own version that we thought was better and
Okay.
that was more cost effective. Sometimes like what we did with Delta with the cups, that
Yeah.
was an idea that we had completely on our own. But
Okay.
sometimes you could take an idea that's out there that's not really completely working, and there's different reasons why, and you could fine tune it. And that's kind of what we did with the baby wipes.
Okay. So in the cups example and the baby wipes example, so okay, did you went to China and like said, okay, we want this item but with like these tweaks, or how did you go about like prototyping and then actually getting your vision? Because building a physical product is really challenging, even if it's just taking a like building a better mousetrap.
So once again, you're exactly on target. It's been tough. Like I told you, Delta took 2 years. I
Yeah.
would say that we've spent a couple $100,000.
Okay.
Trips,
Okay.
development, samples, fine tuning, changing, uh, audits. I could just go on and on and on. It is not a simple process. You're 100% correct.
So did you self fund that? Did you raise some money for this stuff? Like how did you pay for that? Because if you're building a bunch of products, like building one product is costly enough, never mind multiple.
Well, it's funny that you say that because here I was, a 30, 35-year apparel guy who
Yeah.
built a very nice business,
Yeah.
built a decent nest egg, but all of a sudden, within a year, I'm doing 5 times the amount of business that I was doing in apparel.
I see.
And it was difficult. So I had to, number one, we put in a lot of our own money
Okay.
because the banks, the banks have been very helpful, but how easy is it to have a bank come in and say, okay, we're going to finance you for 5 times what you've been doing regularly for the past 20 years.
Yeah,
So,
fair enough.
yeah, it was difficult. And we did everything from putting in our own money to borrowing money to getting extra bank lines to paying higher interest than a normal person was
I
to
see.
get even more money. Uh,
Like you were
one
all
thing I,
in.
yeah, one thing I could tell you, the Garson family, and I include my kids and my father when he was alive, my brothers. We're a scrappy entrepreneurial family. It's a family business, and finding product, getting it financed, getting it produced, getting it shipped, we get it done. Not easy, but we get it done.
Okay, interesting. So how well, and maybe it doesn't, but how has kind of what's happened with AI and augmented reality, like has that affected your business? Has it added to your business? Like what are your thoughts around that? Or is it not really played it at all?
It has not played a part in our business.
Okay.
One of the things that I fight commodity businesses, it's really hard because a lot of times all people care about is price. So we
Yeah.
really fight to show why we make a difference, whether it be coming up with innovations, whether it be with shipping faster, whether it be in better customer service. You know, the big monsters of the industry. dictate to the customers how it's going to be. This is how much we can
Yep.
ship you. This is the way we're going to ship. This is what it costs. This is when we're going to give you a price increase. So we try to be more innovative. We try to come up with more product. We try to come up with solutions. We try to be more customer friendly.
Okay. How did you figure out the supply chain though? Because let's be honest, like majority of at least tech companies during the pandemic were brutal at it. And it seemed like Apple was one of the only few companies that had it kind of sorted out because, that's what Tim Cook's background was before I think he took over CEO. So what are your thoughts and advice around kind of managing that supply chain? Because you've obviously had some success even through the pandemic.
Well, it's funny because I got into, can't say a little bit of trouble, but I got criticized a little bit because I was on, I don't remember if it was, I did both. So it was either CNBC or Bloomberg. I did an interview
Okay.
about the supply chain, and it was right at the
Yeah.
beginning of the pandemic. And one of the first questions they said to me, that they posed to me, was President Biden says, and this was like in October or November. President Biden says that they're working on the supply chain, and he's hoping by Christmas that we get everything together and that everything will be good and on the shelves. And I said, I know everybody's trying their hardest, but that's the most unrealistic thing. It's going to take a long time to fix the supply chain. And then all of a sudden, I
Yep.
read on the internet, supply chain expert criticizes Biden. But it was nothing like that. What I meant was, which was very much about your question, it's not so easy to just fix or get through the supply chain. So the fact that I've been doing this for almost 40 years. I know how to get goods. I know how to speak to people. I know how to find things. I mean, we just did a China trip, one of my sons and I, and
Yeah.
we did 12 days and we saw 15 suppliers in 9 different regions. So the answer to the question is we work our butt off, but we know where to go and how to do it.
Okay, no, it makes sense. So how did you figure out though, because obviously China's known for them ripping off products, right? And then maybe selling them on AliExpress or whatever else. And that's just how it is, right? So how have you kind of tried to mitigate that? Because from my understanding, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's really hard to enforce your copyright in other parts of the world, especially China.
Yeah. So during the pandemic, it was probably like the Wild West in the 1800s. Uh, I've never seen
Okay.
anything like it. Um, like everyone else, we had loads of problems. People ripped us off. We sent money and never got product.
I
You
see.
couldn't inspect or do things. Sometimes we shipped things and people said it wasn't right, but we we would get inspection report. It was a mess. But now it's not like that anymore. So
Okay.
so now, it's business as normal. We don't sell products into China. We buy
All right.
products from different parts of Asia. And in fact, due to the bad political climate, every one of our Asian vendors is working their brains out to move their production facilities to Vietnam, to Thailand, to Malaysia, to Indonesia. That's what's going on right now.
Okay. Is that just because of the unstable, like country of China right now and what all the stuff
Well,
that's happening?
well, what's happening is we're kind of in a little bit of a cold war, if you ask me, with China. It
Sure.
feels
Yeah.
like China, Iran, and Russia are kind of like together and a little bit against the West. Trump had imposed tariffs, and now he said if he comes in, he's going to put a 60% tariff against a lot of things in China. And now Biden all of a sudden says he's going to impose extra tariffs on China. So whether we like it or not, the politics are not good between the USA and China right now.
Yeah, that's fair. And yeah, I think, well, it seems like even like big companies even are starting to move their manufacturing out of China as well and trying to open up in other countries too, right? Like you mentioned.
Yeah, and when
So
you think about it in the food
yeah,
service business, and I do a lot of different products in food service, but in the food service business, I'm going to guess that 70, 80% of what we use in the United States is from China. And
sure.
so their companies likewise do 70%, 80% of their business in the US. So they
Right.
read what I read, what you read, and they're in a panic. In fact,
Sure.
Vietnam now is to its capacity. You can't even go there to open up facilities anymore. Their workforce, their
I see.
space, it's done. And people are now Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia trying to go there.
Okay. Interesting. So obviously, like they're kind of in the same part of the world, but like, how do you figure that out now? Because everybody used to just go to China, and now if you have to go to like 4 or 5 different countries, even the logistics of just physically going and checking out all the factories at all these different countries, like it's a long way to go, even between them.
Yeah, now we have our people that work for us, agents overseas, but you are right. We
Okay.
still like to go, we still like to see, and we're still going to make multiple trips a year to Asia to look at our production, to have FaceTime with our partners over there. And I have a Chinese partner that's been with me
Okay.
forever, and
Okay.
we do the best we can. It's called
Sure.
importing. It's not so easy.
Sure. Okay. So, but what advice do you give to people that are maybe looking to get a product built in another country? Like, how do you vet that vendor and kind of put trust in them that they're going to be able to execute your vision? Because we all know that sometimes you get a product that doesn't work, or there's whatever, right?
Yes. So
A ton of things can go
yeah.
wrong.
So the first thing that you would have to do, it's almost like hiring an employee. Get some
Okay.
references, find people that have had good or bad experiences with this factory. Then you can, a lot of these factories are public, at least the ones I deal with, a lot of them. So they're easy to
Okay.
find everything about them. But the ones that are private, you really have to dig in. You could check on their certifications, their audits, different things of that nature. It's really serious business. I sell much everybody from the big fast food guys to Delta, American Airlines, Latam, Southwest, um, and then people like Walmart, Sam's, Kohl's, TJ Maxx. They all have requirements. When you sell these big guys, they want to know who the factory is, what are the certifications, what is their size. In fact, a lot of these companies won't deal even with someone like me unless I'm large enough and I'm doing enough revenue and volume. They'll check me the same way, or check my company, excuse me, the same way that I'll check the factories. But there is definitely enough information that you could ascertain whether a factory is able to do what you need. Just
Sure.
know how to do it, like I just explained.
Okay. And then, so okay, so you figure out the factory part, but getting it into North America, from my understanding, can also be challenging. So, what advice do you give to people that are trying to get something actually like through customs and into the country properly?
Well, the first thing I would say, especially when you're starting, give yourself extra lead time, a lot of extra lead
Okay.
time.
And how much? Like, is it 6 months, a year?
Um,
Really depends on the good.
well, you know what? I used to quote time from beginning to end 90 days. But now,
Okay.
what's going on in the world, it's a mess. Containers, ports, problems with wars and routes that are cut off, and all kinds of problem. So now we're pretty much going 120 days, but 120 days from when we have everything set is kind of how we work. And
And what
that
do
I
you
could,
mean by everything set?
the order's set. When
Oh,
you
okay.
do a product, it's not only do I get a PO,
Yeah.
approve the product? Did they approve the way it's packed? Did they approve the way the packaging looked? Did they approve the materials of the packaging? There's a
Right.
lot to do. Did they approve the artwork on the packaging?
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Okay. And then what about the custom side of things? Any advice for getting it through that?
Um, you better use someone who knows what they're doing in this treacherous
So you're hiring a third
environment.
party.
Yeah. And you know what's
Okay.
happening now is because of all the problems that I just said in the world that affect delivery, goods on a boat, and then all of a sudden the boat gets redirected for 30 days
Mm.
for another route. And you have to make sure that you're working with people that are connected with the freight forwarders. You can hire your own freight forwarder and be very on top of that. Or you can work with a customs broker that has a freight forwarding service, but you have to be clear that you're paying the right amount, that you're getting the right route, that your goods are getting put on the containers on time and on the water. There's a lot to do. You have to know what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it sounds like you leverage a lot of like connections and you've done a ton of research. And then obviously the ones that work out you keep using and the ones that don't
Yes,
find
exactly.
somebody
That's
new,
how
right? Like it's a bit of trial and
it's
error.
funny. You talk to so many people out there in the world that are successful, and there's something that they say all the time. To be really successful, you must fail first. So,
Oh, like over and over
right,
again.
right. I mean, I think about so many people. Steve Jobs got fired. They brought him back.
Yep.
Uh, I think about I was
Yep.
with Fubu, and my friend Damon John, who's a Shark Tank guy. Um,
Yep.
Damon says that he failed 6 times before he got
Wow.
Fubu going. He was turned down maybe 15, 20 times by banks. Um, other people have said to me, if you've never been sued, you've never been in business. If you've never gone bankrupt, then you don't know what it is to succeed. Maybe these are exaggerations, but there is some knowledge
No,
to those
not really.
statements. You know, if you're going to go out there and you don't know anything and you're going to try by yourself, then you're going to have along a learning curve. Maybe if you're smarter than the next guy, your learning curve will be shorter. But if you haven't done it before and you're trying something new and you're doing it on your own, unless you're really lucky, you're going to encounter some failures.
Sure. What other advice would you like to pass on because you've been in a bunch of industries for a long period of time and you've obviously had ups and downs that you've gotten
Yeah.
through?
So the a couple of things I would say: be prepared when you go into a meeting. Understand the customer
Yeah.
and understand the competitive landscape when you talk to a customer. If you know a customer's business, what they do, who they sell, what they have success with, what they don't, what they have on their floor that looks like it's working, what they are missing on their floor, a customer will respect you when you go in and have knowledge. That's the first thing that I could say. The second thing I would say is don't give up. Never give up. Be persistent.
How Okay, no, I 100% agree with that. But how have you gotten through the hard times where you've wanted to quit?
Um, I've had numerous ups and downs. Pretty perceptive of you to figure that out, but I guess it's just general. Most people are like that, but I've had many ups and
Sure, yeah,
downs,
everyone.
and my persistence and my will to succeed, and the fact that I will just never ever give up. And my sons, who are my partners and real partners, they're equity partners in the company. Uh,
Yep,
they have the same point of view. We are people that work 16, 18 hours a day because we work here during our day with our vendors and customer base, and then we do Asia at night. It's a 12-hour forward
right.
difference. So we work our brains out. We're persistent. We never give up. You want to talk about Walmart, we just opened them. I would say we've been working on Walmart for 2.5, 3 years. Delta we worked on for 2+ years. It was
Right.
easy to give. It would be easy to give up.
No, no, fair advice for working with family because that can be really challenging in
Well, most
itself.
people have given me advice for working with family as they realize that I'm in business with three sons and actually a fourth son that I basically took into the family. That's friends with my sons, and I don't want to go into the whole long story, but he became like another son. So I basically have four of
Sure.
them in the business with me. And the advice that I've gotten from my friends who are successful and have had similar circumstances is don't go into business with your family. That's the advice I've gotten
All
from
right.
everybody.
Fair
But
enough.
but but I could tell you that I'm an outlier in that. My
Okay.
three and actually four sons are the hardest
Yeah.
working, determined, persistent, fabulous, fabulous workers. And they're going to take this company and build it. Honestly, I feel 5 times to the size it is today by the end of the decade. And I gave them the platform is the best way to say it. I gave them the platform, but they are highly intelligent, highly skilled, unspoiled, and really hardworking, persistent young men who never give up. And the, I guess the lessons that they've learned from me, whether hearing them, working with me, or just seeing them, they're better than I am. All four of them, every one of them, and they will build the company better than I ever could. It took me a long time. You were asking good questions at the beginning about how do you do this, how do you do that, how do you make sure you vet this out, how do you not fail. I failed over and over. I failed over and over. I had no guidance. I had nobody to help me. I was living on my own at 16. I made every mistake in the book. I don't think I got smart until about 10 to 15 years ago. I needed to do the whole case. Like there were certain things I knew and they were just inherent and they were in my blood. And then there's other things that I just didn't have the experience and I had to learn and nobody was there to teach me. So I hope that I've been a good example for my four kids. And I think that will have that guidance and that platform to start. I could have never started and do a couple of $100 million in a pandemic year from much less. It would have never happened for me. I wouldn't have known how to do it, how to find the money, how to get the product. So they came in with a platform, but they're smarter than I am, and they're going to build it a lot better.
It makes no. That's interesting. So when there's obviously like when there's five of you in a room or even virtually, how do you handle the like conflict around like one has an idea, couple maybe don't agree, some disagree, some agree? How do you kind of handle that? Because that can be challenging in itself.
It's funny. So I've done a few podcasts. I've been on, I think, Fox, Bloomberg, and CNBC. But you have
Okay.
hit all my like pain points. I mean, I don't know what the story is with you, but you seem to have found them all. Maybe they didn't have as much time, but but I developed a system. So I grew up a very
Okay.
poor guy and with no real family and no money whatsoever. And when I moved to New York City and brought my kids up in New York City, I found myself in the Upper East Side of New York City with some of the richest people in the world. And what I
Sure.
watched is friends of mine that usually meet friends through your kids when you're growing up. And they were the parents of my kids who went to school. And I
Yeah.
watch a lot of these guys married into families or even were the actual blood of the family. But the parents controlled everything. They controlled the money. And after a while, some of these people were just any way possible, even death, they were waiting to get a hold of that money because they were sitting there and didn't have the ability to make a decision. And I thought it was stupid that the parents didn't turn over more to the kids until they were like incompetent. The parents were incompetent because of old age or something. And I always felt that
Right.
enjoy stuff with your kids. If you had success, enjoy it. Watch them be happy. Watch them grow. Just do it in the right way. So for me, I
Mhm.
made all my kids real equity partners. Between them, they have more of
Makes
the
sense.
business than I do. My friends thought I was crazy for that, by the way, but I believe in that. And I set up a system of democracy. So what happens is
Okay.
if we have an equal vote for something,
Yep.
the person who's in charge of that, let's say, category, like for instance, we sell cups, we sell gloves, we have health and wellness, we do we do a lot of Jansan business where we remove sanitizer and different things. We have all different kinds of functions that we do in our business. So who's ever in charge of that function, if it's a tie, they have a deciding vote. If it's a majority, the
Got it.
majority rules. And here's the crazy thing. Anyone in the group has a veto, and the veto stands. So if three of us or four of us don't want to do something, and one person is vehemently against it, the veto stands
Yeah.
and we don't do it. So that's the system I set up.
Interesting.
So hopefully that helps a little bit with the infighting, that everybody just lives by the democratic system.
No, that's actually interesting and seems to make a lot of sense, right?
I hope so. I just wish I used
So
my veto more often.
fair enough. But sadly, we're coming to the end of the show. So how about we close with mentioning where people can get more information about yourself, the companies you mentioned, and any other links you want to
Sure.
mention?
So we have a couple of different companies where people can really see our product. We have an overall website called iBrands Global, but our companies are Remcoda, Remcoda. I named them after my oldest son, Remy, my twins, Cole and Darren, Remcoda. So our company is Remcoda and Blue Labs, Blulabs. And you can look them up. We have extensive websites and sell many different products and categories. Too many to bore everybody during this podcast, but a lot. We do over 1,000 products.
Very, wow. Very cool, Mark. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you and have a good rest of your
Hey, I
day.
appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Please visit our website at buildingthefutureshow.com to join the free community, sign up for our newsletter, or to sponsor the show. The music is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.